Hello everyone. Today we will be talking about the changes in demand and what are the factors that change demand, whether increase or decrease, and how they're reflected on the demand and supply model. So first of all, let's go back a little bit to the demand and supply model. If you remember from the previous video, the demand curve basically slopes down. Of course, there are models that show it more curvilinear, but for simplicity's sake, we just make it as a straight line. Either way, this is more of a conceptual model. So as you remember, as the price goes down, there is more quantity in the demand. People are more willing to buy as the price goes down. Now, this is not a static environment, and different factors in the economy and in society will affect demand at all times. Okay, and the way it can affect it are either they will increase it or they will decrease it. An increase in the demand is represented by a right shift of the demand curve, and a decrease in the demand is represented by a left shift of the demand curve. So if for a certain product there's a decrease in demand, basically what you would expect is for the same price there would be less demanded quantity. So that's the idea, and the opposite is true for the increase. Okay, so increase to the right, decrease to the left. So if we try to visualize it, if you remember from previously, the point of equilibrium is where the demand and supply curves meet, and here we have at the point of equilibrium a price and the quantity. So suppose now there is a change in demand and there's an increase in demand. This would be represented by a shift to the right of the demand curve. And what you will notice is that there's actually a new point of equilibrium now, and this new point has on its own a price and a quantity. So here we mentioned it as E2, and the price is PE2 and the quantity is QE2. And what you notice is that when the demand increased, basically with the new point of equilibrium, the product price increased as well as the quantity increased. Okay, if we take the opposite example and we look at a decrease in the demand, so a decrease of the demand is basically a shift to the left of the demand curve. In this case, you will notice here we have a new point of equilibrium, and in this case this new point of equilibrium has a lower price and a lower quantity. Here, of course, provided that there was no change in the supply curve. So provided that the supply is fixed, we notice that if there's an increase in the demand, there will be an increase in price and quantity. If there's a decrease in the demand, there will be a decrease in price and quantity at equilibrium. But then let's ask ourselves, what are the causes that can change demand? And basically there are 6 factors that may change demand. And because of these factors, the demand curve is changing every day for every good. Same goes for the supply, which we will talk in later videos. But let's try to break them down one by one. So we have the price of a substitute, the price of a complement, the change in consumer income, and there's 2 subcategories here, one for normal goods and one for inferior goods, the change in consumer taste, the price change expectation, and the total number of consumers. So the first one is the price of a substitute. Think about 2 products that are substitutes. One is milk from cows and the other is soy milk. So one substitutes the other. So basically what what the factor is, if you have a change in price of a substitute, let's suppose this is the good we're focused on, the cow milk, and the substitute is soy milk. Okay, so we're focused on this one. If there's a change in price of the substitute, the demand will change for the original product. In this case, if the price of the substitute goes down, the demand of the original will also go down or decrease, which will mean a shift to the left for the curve. If the price of the substitute goes up, it means that the demand of the original will also go up. Think about it. If the soy milk, even for people who drink soy milk, if the soy milk goes up suddenly by 40% in price, well, some of those people will stop buying soy milk and then will switch back to cow milk, meaning that they will increase the demand on cow milk. Okay, or if the price of soy milk goes down by 80% all of a sudden, well, some of the people who already drink cow milk will see an opportunity that it's a lot cheaper to buy soy milk, and so the demand of cow milk will decrease. So that's the first factor. The second factor is the price of a complement. So many of the goods, they're not standalone. Oftentimes they have to be complemented by something else in order to work, whether it's an actual good or service and so forth. So think here of the good, the original good, as tires, and the complement as rims. You cannot normally have tires without rims to operate, or vice versa. Okay, so when the price of the complement goes down, the demand of the original will increase. So think about it. When the price of the rims go down by 50%, there are more people who would like to buy the entire thing, thus increasing the demand of the tires. Okay, and the opposite is true. When the price of the rims increases, there are less people willing to buy the entire set, if you will, and so the demand on tires will decrease. Okay. The third factor are the changes in consumer incomes. Here basically how much purchasing power the consumers have and how much income they receive affects their behaviors in terms of demand. But there are two parts that we need to look at. Is the good or service that we are modeling or we're looking at, is it a normal good or is it an inferior good? And those two behave in opposite directions. So think about consumer income increasing. You would expect a higher demand on normal goods, so high-end clothes, more expensive clothes, food, whatever, and then less demand on inferior goods, budget, used clothes, and so forth. If the consumer income is decreasing, so is lowering, basically you would expect a decrease in demand on normal goods and actually an increase in demand on inferior goods. So let's say the economic situation is getting worse. People are not able to afford buying expensive dinners or standard dinners anymore, so they will switch to fast food, which is more inferior good, or to home cooking and so forth. So that's just one way to think about it. Okay. The fourth is change in consumer taste, and basically this it's not purely based on economics, but it's also based on a society and social factors. Here's one example, is that we are looking at meat as our criteria, and you have 20% you have an increase of 20% in the population which became vegetarian. How will that affect the demand of meat? Well, the demand will decrease, will lower, because there's 20% more people who don't want to have the meat. This is irrespective of what's the price of the vegetables and so forth. This is a consumer taste. Here in this case literally, but it could be in anything. Suppose that pink color is not so desirable anymore, and so pink colored cars will be less demanded in the market, for example. Okay, and the opposite is of course true. The fifth one is change in expectation of the price. So what happens, this is actually a self-fulfilling prophecy. So when people believe that the price is expected to rise in the future, automatically the demand of the good will increase today. And the opposite is true as well. If people believe that in the future the price will drop, the demand will decrease today. So think about it that way. Many people are thinking that a certain good will drop in price by 10% in 2 weeks from now. Will they go buy it today? Not really. All of them will be waiting 2 weeks until to go buy it, because there is less purchases happening today because of those people waiting for 2 weeks. The sellers are then obliged to reduce the prices in order to get more sales. And what happens is, as they are reducing the prices, they fulfilled the prophecy of those people waiting for the price to drop, or thinking that the price will drop. The sixth and last factor is basically the total number of consumers. As the global population grows, or the change in population within a certain segment or country and so forth, so does the demand. So if you have more people who could use a certain product, or who would want a certain product, then you have a demand increase in that case. If you have less people, then you have a demand decrease. One way to think about it is, for example, demand for beef in China, where now it's increasing because of population increase, but also of the other factor that we mentioned, which is the change in consumer income. Okay, so here we covered the changes in the demand. In the next video we will talk about changes in the supply, and then we will realize that at all times both supply and demand for a given good are changing every day, every second, and so the equilibrium price and quantity keep on changing all the time. If you have any question, please write it in the comment section below. I'll make sure to answer it as soon as possible. Also make sure to like this video and click the subscribe button for more interesting finance and management lessons, and thanks for watching.